Hey, what's up out there? Dave Duford here at davidduford.com. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday evening. It is December 3rd, and you are here for my No BS live stream insurance sales training show. Thank you so much for joining. So if this is your first time on my live stream, I want to give you a formal welcome for joining me today. I do this live stream training, generally speaking, at the beginning of the month. First of the week sometime, and it's all about answering your questions as it relates to anything insurance, sales, and marketing. Generally speaking, I poll my audience to try to find out what kind of topics you guys want to talk about in combination with some stuff that I want to talk about, and then cobble together some sort of show, mostly information, a little bit of entertainment, and deliver that in a package to you to hopefully help you understand how to sell more insurance, whatever it is that you're selling, and get results, because that's what really this whole thing is all about. So at the end of the day, I guess the way we could start here is if you guys can hear me, I'll ask for you guys on the line here just to say hello, and please let me know if you can hear me. If you can kind of say yes, or press 1 if you can hear me in the chat. That would work well. Just to make sure everything's coming through nice and clear. So I've got a lot on the plate today to talk about, so we're going to kind of jump right in. The format for the schedule is I've got a couple of training topics I'm going to go through. This is live, and if you've got any questions, you're welcome to post those into the chat, and I will do my best to answer them as succinctly as possible. We did this last month, had about 100 people live at the same time, pretty cool. And handling all those questions was a lot of fun. So I encourage you, if you've got any kind of question, insurance related, final expense, Medicare, mortgage protection, sales, marketing, lead generation, carrier questions, please post them. This is how we all learn, how we all get better, and I'll be happy to do my best to help you out. So in the spirit of last week's presentation, I want to start off with another lighting of the candle. So in order for me not to burn myself again like I did last time, I shall get the match started here and light the candle. We have another final expense carrier that has bit the dust, as they say. So last month we talked about Settlers, which has exited the final expense business, as well as Foresters, which has exited the Telesales business, or will. And we add a third company to the list, which is Assurity. If you've not done business with Assurity, let me tell you a little bit about them and what kind of lessons you can learn from this, because I think this is an important perspective to take from the experience of what makes a good final expense company and why some fail out, which otherwise are seemingly pretty good for about 80-70% of the time, but the other 30% makes all the difference in being kind of a non-player. So Assurity, a very good company, excellent to deal with, has had a final expense product for many years now. It's remained unchanged. It's always been, if you've ever looked at running a quote, at the top of the quotes, especially for smokers and for non-smokers too. They have an e-application process. They're very good to use over the phone, but they decided to exit the final expense business. And I want to explain to you my perception on why that's the case. The biggest problem with Assurity is that Assurity was too tight for what it was willing to accept. If you look through the application process, it's basically a final expense. It's basically a non-med product in a final expense market. And when I say non-med, we know our final expense products, generally speaking, no examination, phone interview, instant decision, or should be within a day or two if there's no phone interview. The problem with Assurity is that Assurity would literally put you on the phone for 45, 50 minutes to get a decision. And if you begin to answer yes to certain questions that are related to the main questions on the application, it would draw into a very detail-oriented type of application process. They would literally ask about A1C levels, blood sugar levels over the past 6 months, current blood pressure numbers and readings, and it would drive the normal final expense client or agent, and the client too, crazy, that was trying to place decent quality business. My first experience with them was probably 4 years ago. I was on the phone literally 48 minutes and I didn't even get a decision. Okay, 48 minutes on the phone. It really just totally soured me on using them entirely. And so I think this kind of combined together, they never really got traction. They never really had a presence in the marketplace. They had a nice niche where you could get COPD as like preferred rates. It was killer, but they had to be super healthy other than the, crumbling lungs that couldn't hold up anymore. So the moral of the story here, guys, especially for you out there, if there's any people that work at companies, you've got to pick companies that you have to design carriers that have a combination of what you want in underwriting, which is a solid product that's sticky business, that's not going to lapse, but and profitable. But you also want to make sure that you give up some room to allow a salesperson like you and I to go out here and actually sell this stuff. Because if you looked at the application, very tight on diabetes, 5-year look backs on a few health conditions, very difficult to get placed with. And then if you even wanted to go that route, boy, you had to go through just an arduous, tumultuous phone interview that, look, if I could look at this company or Transamerica or Trinity Life and write business with them and get it done within a reasonable period of time, well, for the sake of my life and my business, I'm going to use a carrier that's a little more conducive. So this is why, carriers that are going to get most of the business in this, they're going to have a good balance between underwriting, a couple of special niches, and are going to be really conducive to the needs of an agent to facilitate business written. This is so important. And unfortunately, a surety, an otherwise good company, just has not grasped this. This is always kind of a gripe if you've been in this business long enough, that insurance companies just don't listen to you. They seemingly don't care what you think, give you much room for an opinion on how to improve the processes to place more business with them. It's almost as if they operate in an ivy tower surrounded by 20-foot walls and have a complete disconnect when it comes to how can we make the life of an insurance agent much easier to place more business with them. So bon voyage surety. Let's see here. Let's take a couple of questions here. Might as well jump in. Hello to everybody who's jumped in and say hi. Sean has asked, I would like to get info about the Inner Circle and Facebook marketing campaign. Just, I think it's Sean Sen McGuire, Mr. McGuire. Save myself from pitching my wares too much. Go to my website. It's davidduford.com. There's information on both up there. The Facebook marketing strategies is inclusive within the Inner Circle program, or if you're an agent of mine, just click that link and watch the videos. That's the easiest way without taking too much time with giving you guys content. So there's tons of information there. Probably all your questions will be answered there, so definitely check that out. Steve asked, what do you know about People Helping People? It's an organization that recruits agents, probably much like National Agents Alliance, any multi-level marketing type of approach. I've never really even dealt with anybody that's come from PHP, to be honest with you. I've heard of them. They do a lot of business, but I've never dealt with any agents that have had experience. It's weird. I've been in this business a long time, but I've never really crossed their path. I think they do more of the IUL type of business, if I'm correct, as opposed to final expense. All right. Hey, Reed, I've been in insurance sales for 4 months. Shit commission structure, no renewals, and a boss who is new agent. That's welcome to insurance sales. That's like 3 out of 4 people on the call here at one point or currently. I'm job hunting because this is torture. I just really hate people. Get out of sales, man. Get out of final expense, or get out whatever you're doing. If you hate this, and this is not trying to call you out here. Truthfully, if you hate doing this, man, don't do it. A lot of people look at sales as some kind of intermedium before getting into another career. If you aren't passionate about helping people, if you don't like helping people, that's fine. Not everybody's cut for it. Some people are better at it than others, but do yourself a favor. If you don't get pleasure and value out of this, exit the business, find something else as quickly as possible. You got one life on earth. Live it to the best of your desires is the way I look at it. Mahesh, how do I handle clients who want to cancel their insurance? So one thing I'll say here is just ask them, hey, I got this notification in the mail or on email or whatever that you called in to cancel your coverage. What's going on? And allow your client to kind of start to explain what their rationale for doing so. Now, there's a lot of twists and turns that you can go down this route. You can even show up and say, hey, in order to cancel this policy, please sign off on this form. I'll have to drop by and cancel it. get face-to-face with the prospect and start having a heart-to-heart conversation. In some circumstances, it's better to get answers face-to-face as opposed to the phone. And so, a lot of times it's just asking them. Now, I'll tell you, in the final expense arena, I would say about half of the people who at least miss payments do so because they just forgot to account for it. A simple follow-up phone call will in about half the circumstances with final expense will say, oh, I didn't know I missed the payment. Oh, I must have drew my money out 2 days early or something. Yeah, I want to keep my insurance, double draft the following month. So always investigate what the problem is, what caused it, and then just proceed from there. But let the person speak. Just see what's going on, how you can help. Maybe the premium's too expensive. Sell them a policy that's half the size. Get something on the books as opposed to nothing. So some strategies you can use to kind of retain something versus losing the whole package. Hey, Bobby, love to be here. Cool, man. Reed, are you a Primerica? Traditional life insurance agents in the works of jumping in the final expense? Hey, Alejandro. Yeah, you're going to find a totally different market here, man. I mean, you'll get decisions like the same day or two later in certain circumstances. You're not going to play go for running amendments, rate ups, table rates, more requirements from the carriers. I just got a case where I had something like this happen with a client. It just drives me nuts. I'm not used to it, and I've got to explain a rate up now to the poor guy. Devin. Hey, what's up, Devin? Hold on. Same boat as Reed. 4 months and I haven't made any money because of structure. All commission been going towards lead debt. Yeah, sounds like you're probably with a Lincoln Heritage type of setup where you've got advancing of commissions. It's a tough racket, man. Unfortunately, you don't know this going into this, right? You see an organization, it sounds good. Seemingly the people are successful there, and you generally want to trust people that think that they're out for your best interest. And unfortunately, in this business, most just aren't. Their design in this business, as I say in one of my most watched videos, is hire them in classes, hire them in masses, train them in classes, sell all their friends and family, and fire their asses. Unfortunately, that's how recruiting works at 80% of the organizations in this business. The shotgun approach. If you got a pulse, you're hired. Come on in, sit down, let's get started. And then rinse and repeat over and over again. Training generally isn't something that's discussed or explained, but you can work through this. Many of the people who I've interviewed, if you want to check out my interviews with different agents, they start off in these positions of weakness, but by sheer will and desire and really no way out otherwise, they work through it, find better organizations, and level up their game, level up their life. So it's a common denominator really most of us have at some point or another, and we work our way out of it. So just keep that in mind. You're not alone. Hey, Bob, what's up? Odd question. How many apps do you keep in stock? I ran out 2 weeks ago ordering for resupply. Okay, yeah, order 24 of everything at a time. 24 apps, replacement forms, consumer guides, brochures, everything that is focused on processing an application. I do it every month. You sit down first of the month, call everybody. They're not going to charge you a dime for this. They're not going to red flag your account, even if you never write anything. I can't tell you how many I probably ordered 100 final expense apps from Settlers and wrote like 2 or 3. For some reason, they just kept getting applications from them, predominantly for different states, and they never flagged me. But stuff like that, you can just call it in on a consistent basis. Always make sure you've got apps, because at that moment you need to write them, and it's not there, you may lose the deal. Hey, Tamika, what's going on? Can you explain the annual fee charge? Is that required up front or is paid out on a certain day? Hey, what's up? Annual fee is a part of the premium that is paid by the client. So if you ever work the math out longhand and you do the equation, it's going to be the modal factor plus the per thousand rate, and then you're multiplied, and then you're going to add in the policy fee. So that can range from $30 to $60. Sometimes there's no policy fee. And then you multiply it by whatever the PAC rate is, 0.085 for some companies. It depends on others, but it's baked in. So you don't have to worry about collecting that. It's being collected every month as a part of the premium. Hey, Cincinnati, Ohio, what's going on? IUL versus, IUL, Steve. That's essentially it's a kind of investment grade product. And I say that in parentheses because it's not an investment. It's not something a financial advisor probably could sell it, but it's not. I'm lacking the word here. It's not a financial advisor type product. It's an insurance product that allows for, it's kind of pitched in the same manner of exposing yourself to upside growth in the market with limiting the downside losses. and it's backed within a life insurance product called a universal life product. So it's sold predominantly to younger people, older people too, that like the idea of a riskless way of growing that growing cash value, growing retirement funds. I'm not an IUL guy, as you can sound. I'm kind of muddling through it, but there's a lot of information out there, and it's a great market for some people. Some people really like it. Let's see what else. Hey, Cincinnati, you were saying, what's the best way to store away your files, by month or by name or both? That's a good question. I've always kept a CRM, which really is just Excel files. And I would just organize the date of the application, all the demographic information about the client, the premium size, the face amount, the companies, and keep that in one spreadsheet. And that way, when I go back and call on clients after 6 or 12 months to re-up the deal or add more coverage or whatever, I know when to call them as opposed to when it's close to their birthday. And that's another way you may want to consider organizing your files is by their birth date. Colonial Penn has always done the strategy. I'm sure there's other companies too, where they do a mail out about 30 or 60 days out from the birthday of the client and say, hey, you got a birthday coming up. This is a good idea, a good reason to investigate shopping for life insurance. And so you could develop a strategy calling on your clients 30 or 60 days out from their birthday and say, hey, I just noticed your birthday's coming up, wanted to offer you life insurance, or just sit down and do a review with you and see if there's any way we can improve your coverage. And it's a great reason why to call them. All right. Hey, Ben. David, my direct mail slowed way down. I'm doing per thousand. Yeah, man, it's a problem we're all having right now. You can blame, this is what I've heard, you can blame the election. Okay, now it's well past now, but at one point you could, because people are getting slammed with vote for me type of literature. You can blame Medicare. That's probably the predominant problem right now is our market's getting slammed with Medicare mailers left and right. I mean, their mailboxes are probably full to the brim with changes to the Medicare mailers, and that's going to suppress response to other stuff. People aren't going to fill out absolutely everything. And the other thing is I heard the fires or the storms, I don't know if it's the ice storms or the firestorms in California were affecting flow of mail. And you got to remember, it's a distribution channel, right? And so storms and things like that can upset it, as well as, elections possibly. So I think, though, the biggest issue is Medicare slowing response rates down. I see it in our mailings right now. We've got fixed prices, so even though response rates have slowed down for some of my agents, they're still on a fixed price, so they're not paying like double the average price like you are. That's a program we offer exclusive to my agents. But this will tend to slow down into January, or I should say improve in January. Once Medicare is over, once the holiday seasons are over, January hits, you're going to see an improvement in response rates for sure. But this is the perfect reason why fixed prices on your direct mail leads are the way to go. Jeremy asks, how can you compete with ARP? Is there any hidden information that ARP isn't telling people? And I'm speaking on a whole life policy. Okay, good question. Let me kind of give you the ARP rundown so everybody can kind of take away from, hey, Omar, sorry about that. Restate your question for me if you don't mind. There's just a slew of these questions. ARP has 3 different products. You have the term product, you have the permanent product, guaranteed issue, and you got the permanent product, which is the whole life product. The term product is a 5-year incremental price increasing product that cancels at 80. You can pick it up at any point up to age 75, I believe, but there's price increases at the 0s and 5s, 60, 65, 70 onwards, and at 80, at the end of age 80, I believe, it cancels out entirely. So the strategy there to replace that is just to simply point that crap out, and your client's going to be like, well, that sucks. I don't want this. And then you can replace it for something better. With the permanent plan, if there's no questions asked or if it says guaranteed acceptance, that's a 2-year wait policy. Well, that's easy. If you can find something that will get them first day full coverage, unless they have room temperature IQ or less, they're going to replace and work with you. As far as a whole life product, let's say it's whole life, it's permanent, first day full coverage. If they're in good shape, this is where you want to pull out a non-med type of whole life policy. Royal Neighbors has one. I forget what it's called, but it's pretty good. It's $25,000 face minimum. Trinity and Family Benefit have one. It's non-med. It's a $10,000 face minimum. Also, some of these low-price leader companies are really good too. Life Shield is one. KSKJ is another, where you can get non-med, but it's just super cheap. And then also, Even a no-lapse universal life plan like Mutual of Omaha has one, as well as Sagicor. These act like whole life insurance, even though they're a universal life plan. And essentially, as long as the client continues to pay the recommended premium, it guarantees the policy will never lapse despite there being a zero cash value, unlike normal ULs that would normally lapse if there's not an incremental increase in the price. So these are strategies to replace a competitively priced whole life product like AARPs would be. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Alejandro, should I wait to join a mail-out lead generation until January? Yeah, I would say at this point. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Well, okay, it does matter if you're doing per thousand like our fellow chat member is doing. I would not start a per thousand campaign right now. Fixed pricing would be okay, but understand that response rates are going to be better in January onwards and improving. So if you want the best chances of getting your entire order that you anticipate, starting in January is best at this point. Okay, Omar, now I see your question. For final expenses, I use Sentinel and Mutual. Do you have use Mutual a guaranteed issue? Do you have that product? That's pretty sweet if you do. That is a tough product to get, although there are a few people that will get the guaranteed acceptance policy where there's no questions asked. I hear Sentinel's good. Do you sell over the phone? It's a pretty good phone product. I've heard some guys talking positively about it. I mean, looking at I would say, I'm like, hey, Kyle, yeah, it's a good one. Transamerica or Liberty Bankers Life is good. Now, they're good because they cover issues that the others don't. And whether you think trans amendment is good or not, well, that's your personal preference if they're dealing with them for a while. But they will cover things like COPD, insulin first day full coverage standard, though. But they got a 1-year look back on heart issues like strokes, heart attacks, no height and weight chart. And they'll take blood thinners and even isosorbide, mononitrate, warfarin, Coumadin, stuff like that as potentially preferred. Many carriers can't do that. Although, as I jokingly referenced earlier, Transamerica or amendment can cause you some stress if you're not detailed-oriented and very thorough. And there is a more extensive learning period or learning curve in getting used to their application. It's usually 2 to 3 times longer and more frustrating in some sense to deal with. Steve, LOL, final expense, question mark. Not sure what you mean by that. Should I keep sending them? No, I wouldn't. I would wait till January or February. January, first, second, third week before I'd start a per thousand campaign. One idea to do right now, guys, if you're looking to get hot and heavy in final expense or anything right now where you normally would do direct mail, do telemarketing. Buy telemarketed leads. Buy Facebook leads, okay? I sell Facebook leads. Old Cody Askin sells Facebook leads. The Lead Jerk sells telemarketing leads. This is the perfect time of year to do other kinds of leads besides direct mail because of the response rates. All those other leads are sold on a per lead basis. So regardless of how the responses come out, you pay the same price. That's the biggest challenge right now, is staying busy enough. And with those methods, they tend to be a little bit better as far as getting the kind of leads that you want than relying strictly upon direct mail at the moment. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Cincinnati. All right, is there a guaranteed issue for age 30 to 40? Columbian Life has a 3-year waiting period policy with a maximum of $10,000 in face amount. They do not take HIV or AIDS or Alzheimer's. Otherwise, it's guaranteed issue. It doesn't pay anything, but it's like the last ditch when nothing else works. All right, all these questions, man. I don't know. I had this training here and not getting to it. Hey, that's cool, man. Hey, Alfredo, what's up? I want to join the industry. I like selling. I sold health insurance before a temporary license in Houston. Thought inside sales, calling prospects over the phone. They gave their info. What's your question? Or you're just making a statement. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Over the internet. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. What are you selling? Are you selling health insurance? Are you selling life products? What kind of business are you doing? Kind of curious. Bob, I like Needly that you recommended. Yeah. So if you want to do fixed price leads and you don't want to work with me, there's a vendor, Need a Lead. They do fixed price leads, $31, $35. It can be higher depending on the market, but they're a great source for fixed price leads for sure. Direct mail, exclusive. They don't resell them. Kyle, do you have a video on current client annual reviews? No, but that is a good idea on training. I'm going to make a note here on what you, I'll kind of explain that in the video ideas. Client annual training Yeah, I'll be happy to explain that. It is an often untapped source of quality business in upselling, adding more coverage. I'll say this before I move on to the next questions. One of the things that dawned on me early, and you guys out there who've been doing this at least 3 or 6 months, ask yourself this. How many clients have you walked into that have already had coverage you've added more onto? Probably about half your sales, right? My question is, where's the original agent who sold these people? This is a boon. These people would much rather buy from that other guy than take a risk on a new guy. The devil we know is better than the devil we don't know, right? I trust the salesman I've given information to in most cases versus a new one. At least I know what to expect. And the reason is, well, a lot of times agents just fail out of the business. The other reason is we're grounded in our minds that we only can work leads, fresh leads. Well, you've got leads sitting in your existing clients right now that you can go sell to and make easy sales, highly profitable. You've already paid the cost to acquire them. And it's simple. They set more often. It's a different experience seeing an old trusted client that you like. Good source of business. And then you can cross-sell other stuff. So I'll go more into detail in another video. Okay, Steve, what I meant was what final expense. What is final expense? Oh, okay. What's final expense? That's easy. In a sense, final expense is selling small life insurance policies to cover burial or cremation. It's marketed primarily to low-income seniors on a fixed income, disabled or retired, that have very little in savings, if anything at all. And it's brought about because usually they lose a loved one, like a sibling, a spouse, a kid, and they see how dramatic it costs or traumatic the price is on what it takes to bury someone. And remember, we're dealing with fixed income seniors, so a $10,000 price tag is something they normally won't live long enough to cover for. Coupled with that, they've got health issues. They're more difficult to get qualified for with traditional life insurance. So that's where we come in. And the product we sell is great because it's final expense agents and simplified issue. There's rarely any kind of examinations. We generally get instant decisions as opposed to traditional life insurance that can take weeks or months to get a decision on. The pay is fast. The clients are all over the place. And it's generally an activity-driven business. You don't have to be a genius to sell and be successful at selling final expense, but you got to work your ass off, all right? And a lot of everybody's going to do that. But that's why you could prosper if you like to work, you like to see people, you like to sell them, and you like to help them. It's a great business model with a lot of opportunity. All right. Let's see what else I got here. What are your favorite life insurance? Hey, Ray, what's going on? What are your favorite insurance leads companies? Probably my favorite insurance lead companies are the ones that give me the leads direct mail-wise. The ones we use is called RGI. They're out of Marietta, Georgia. They provide an IMO, FMO level-based solution for fixed-price leads. So you've got to have a group to get access to them. And they get fixed-price leads. That's really important in this market because you can have what our fellow attendee has where the average price goes through the roof because response rates drop. You don't have that with a fixed-price lead solution. Alternatively, if you don't have access to that, need a lead has always been good for a fixed price lead. I really like Lead Concepts. The guys over there are great. Chris Weir is who I recommend. However, they don't do a fixed price lead. They do a per thousand lead. And the lead I've always liked, I really like this lead, is the free gift card Walmart lead. I haven't done it in a while. I have a sense that the response rates have dropped because it's been run ragged for many years now. Essentially, it's, hey, this is about life insurance, send this back, get a free gift card at Walmart. People stop responding to the same bribes after a while, and I don't think the effect is as much there as it used to be, but I always thought it was solid. Some agents hate it to death because they feel like they're bribing people, and they're seeing people who want a gift card, not who want life insurance, and there's some truth to that. You got to be careful about how and where you target. But ultimately, I think it's a great source of leads. But if I were to say which one to pick for sure, I would say fixed price leads all the way and sacrifice the bribe. All right. Hey, Greg, what's up, Gregory? If we use your IMO to contract with carriers, wouldn't they terminate you if you don't produce enough? Yes, but they're what's called drawing blank. Non-for-cause termination, which means you still are vested for your business. You'll continue to receive your commissions, your renewals, that kind of thing. Usually, you just have to produce one piece of business a year. It's not too hard. And if you get only 3, 4, 5 carriers like most agents do, as long as you're continually producing, you'll be fine. Again, once a year isn't too hard. Yes, I keep hard copies of files, but I also electronically back it up. Hey, Steve, no problem. Thanks for joining. Hey, Ben. Your thoughts on phone sales to face-to-face? Hey, Mason, thanks for the good question. I'm a face-to-face guy through and through. And it's not that I think that phone sales have no way of being successful. It's just that my personality has always been situated to helping people face-to-face. I like human contact. I like shaking people's hands. I like sitting down in people's homes and working with them in a normal, traditional type of capacity. That's how I am personally. So I play to my strengths. That's kind of the rule here, right? You should play to what your desires are and what your strengths are. Well, what if you don't know? Well, you're just going to have to try out and see what you like, and that's totally fine. There are some people who are born to sell over the phone. The guy in this business in Final Expense, geez, I don't know. What did he sell last year? $500,000 in business over the phone exclusively. Yeah, he likes selling over the phone. It works very well for them. But some people don't do well. And for me, if I was chained to a desk, having to hit a dialer up and call people all day, it's boring. It's boring just staring at a computer screen. I want to run the roads. I want to see people in their environments. I want to see all the crazy shit that's out there. I mean, that's how I am. It's like I got stories to tell. It's hard, it's part of the allure, I think, to the business is the experience of it, not just what you can make and the income, but the stories and the experiences that you're in. I mean, I've got some crazy stories of all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I prefer face-to-face just because it's who I am. It's my personality distinction. And that's what you should figure out for yourself. And there's not a wrong or a right way. It's what's best for you. All right. Hey, Alfredo, any recommendations on what company I can join to start working in this industry? I'm both licensed. So do this. I'll shameless plug. Go to my website, davidduford.com. Not because necessarily you should join my agency, but if you click Join David's Agency, you're going to get a great rundown on a video basis of 4 different kinds of ways you can sell insurance: final expense, mortgage protection, annuities, and Medicare supplements. One thing you need to determine is what kind of approach works best for you. Again, it's like selling over the phone or face-to-face. A lot of this process is exposure to the different ways you can do this business to figure out what works best for Alfredo. Because that's what's going to give you sustainability in this business. Like Cody Askin says at Secure Agent Mentor, 92% of people fail out of this business in the first year. It's probably more than that. And a lot of reason is there is a mismatch between their personality and what it is that they're selling. So it's really important you take your time, investigate, do the research, and then after you do that, find an agency that best matches what particular product you want to sell and make sure that they can provide what you need. And in most cases for new agents, that's training on a one-on-one basis, answering your questions, picking up the phone when you need help, and giving ride-alongs if possible. Because again, this is a career. It's not a job. It's a career, and you need that kind of assistance, especially from somebody who has in-the-trenches experience. Many organizations do not. They just recruit agents. They put them out in the field and forget about them. Okay, some people can do well like that, but a lot of people can't. They need some help, and they're making money off you anyway, and they should help. That's always been my kind of point to this. So, cool. Keep coming with the questions, guys. That was a long string of questions. Thanks so much. I'm going to keep going here with the kind of regular plan program. We talked a little bit about 3 different subjects we're going to talk about. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but I'm going to start with, I think, what everybody wants to see, which is referral generation strategies. Along this discussion, we've talked about what are the best sources of leads. Bar none, if we're not talking just about paid leads, if we're talking about any source of leads, referral generation is critical, is the best way to generate leads that buy more, that are easier to deal with, and make your life wonderful. The problem with referral lead generation is, well, you don't have referrals to start with. It's easier to get paid leads because you exchange money for marginal levels of interest. But the ultimate position to be in is to generate referrals. So what I'm going to train today is a brief training on 3 different approaches that I have seen that to some extent I've put into practice on different ways you can develop referrals from your existing book of business or any clients that you're selling right now, even if you've paid for them in the form of direct mail, telemarketing, or Facebook leads. So here's the thing I want you to do. If you've watched enough of my videos, you know that my goal in life for you is to take these complex ideas and make them simple. What we don't want to do is elaborate and create this elaborate system that nobody ever implements because there's so many moving parts. To me, it takes away from the utilitarianism of what makes a process work. If it's too complex, nobody does it, and none of the people who we could help ever get helped. So on that same breath, I'm big into the Pareto principle, which is 80% of your results come from 20% of your activities, which means focus is everything. And when it comes to referral lead generation, the thing you need to focus on is that referrals, in generating referrals, the key factor here, guys, is asking, okay? I don't want you to get too complicated and too concerned about the details about what I'm going to talk about here in a moment. But when it comes to referral lead generation strategy, the most important aspect that will account for 80% of your results is just asking for referrals, okay? If you ask at the end of every presentation, whether they buy or they don't, I promise you, if you're doing enough presentations, you're going to get enough referrals, and you're going to be plenty busy from what comes from you. Some will buy, some won't. But if you do it consistently and you ask consistently, there's 80% of what you need to make this referral generation strategy ask. So when do you ask and what do you ask? You always ask right after you're done with the sale, as you're doing the cool down portion of the presentation. Now, some of you out there may have been trained, don't request referrals until you do an annual review or after you do several annual reviews. That is a belief pattern, okay? That for the person saying that makes them feel comfortable because there's an inherent, resistance to feeling like you're bugging somebody to ask for people or introductions because you're maybe asking them for a favor. Well, understand that is not the case. When you sell somebody something, they're at the top of their interest, okay? They're really interested in what you have to say. They're really happy with their results. And they know and feel an emotional high that they probably won't ever get again from the purchase of this product. So this is the time you can capitalize on that and ask for an introduction to people like them, maybe 2 or 3 people that may be a friend, a family member, somebody that they care about, that would get value from this information and put it into action. And so you ask that to them at the cool down. So the way it kind of sounds is like this, as I say, so after everything you've seen today, how do you feel? I feel great, Mr. David. I really thank you so much for helping me out. Good. So you feel completely comfortable with this purchase, this life insurance, and you think it's a good deal. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I want to do is ask you a favor. The bottom line is there's a lot of people like you who need this coverage, but most of these people who reply to these cards never send them back. In fact, about 99 people out of 100 never fill this card back out that we send out. So we know there's a lot of people that need this coverage, like your friends, maybe a sister, brother, that kind of thing. So what I want you to do is this. I'd like you to give me an introduction to 2 people that you really care about that live here locally. I don't care about their age. You can add an age, say they got to be your age or around your age, that would benefit from this information. I'm not going to hard pressure them. I'm not going to give them a hard time, but can you give me a name and a number of 1 or 2 people that I could follow up and explain to them how this works? Then you collect the information. Before you leave, you ask them to call and let them know that you'll be calling. And then you call, and what you say when you set the appointment is this: hey, my name is David Duford. I'm calling you because your sister Sally asked me to call you, and I promised her I would. I just helped her out with some important financial or some important information as it relates to her coverage for her final expenses. And she asked me to spend 5 minutes with you to show the same kind of thing that I did with her without any sort of obligation whatsoever. How would Tuesday at 2 or would 10 be better? It's really important to understand the psychology here. When you set this appointment, you're saying, Sally asked me to call you, and I promised her I would. That verbiage, that script, removes this sort of like mentality you're going to have thinking, I'm going to bother some stranger, and you're placing the impetus on the sister. And you're only doing what your client asked you to. So she can't be mad at you, okay? And then you set the appointment in very much the same way I teach, which is I'm just want to show you this information. What you do with it's up to you. There's no obligation. And then you close for the appointment, House Tuesday at 10 or 2. So this process works very well. Again, it's not elaborate, but it's good enough. And good enough is good enough when it comes to this business. Because if you can capitalize on this and do this 15 times a week, if you've run 15 appointments or 10 appointments a week like this, you're going to get people who will say, sure, some won't, but some will. and you will begin to fill your coffers with referral-generated leads that are easier to set and they have a great potential to sell more business too. Now, as I say this, I am going to pull up a video here. So just bear with me a second because I've got to, let's see here. I've got to find it on here because this really, hold on guys. I'm going to post the link in my, in the chat here. Yeah, here it is. I did an interview. It looks like I did it back about a year ago with a guy named Claude Whitaker. He's a sales trainer. Very good. Anything that he does or says is great. This link here is going to bring you to the video interview I did with him where he talks about his advanced referral generation strategy. This strategy is the best, most thorough, advanced way to generate referrals I have ever seen in my life. Claude essentially sells vacuums, and he uses this strategy, or he used it when he was doing face-to-face sales, and exclusively generated business from this after doing 100 cold calls. And he was able to completely divert his business from cold calls to referral generation business only. So the first thing is, if you really want a great process that's more complex than what I've just taught, watch this video, buy a sales training book. It is excellent for this. But let me kind of explain to you. Essentially what Claude does is that he makes it understood by the prospect that the way people do business with him is that they all refer business to him. That is a standard operating procedure. Sure, I might be here on a cold call or a paid lead, but everybody that he normally does business with him understands that the best people to do business with are from referrals. And that referrals are great because helping other people is a good thing. So he plants the seed early on and peppers it throughout the sales call. Doesn't overdo it to make it obvious, but he makes it understood that this is the standard that you are supposed to follow. And after he does business and helps them out, then what he begins to do is qualify the buyers who bought his vacuum and begin to qualify out potential prospects for more referral business. He asks them, do they own a house? Are they a renter? Do they have carpets? Do they have hardwood floors? Are they married? Are they not? He's done enough data and research on who buys and who doesn't that he's only going to see the ones that fit all of his criteria. And then he makes sure, and he does not do referrals to non-buyers because his numbers have shown him he sells way less to non-buyers than he does to buyers who were referred. And then he actually sets the appointment on the spot. He gets the new client, to call this person and then hand the phone over to set the appointment. And if they don't do that, he just collects the information, asks them to call, and he does kind of the similar script that I already did. So I say all this because if you want a more thorough approach to doing it, please reference that. It's one of the one of the most excellent referral generation strategies I've ever seen. It's one of the best I've seen. The last thing I'll mention here is if you want industry-specific insurance sales referral techniques to come to mind, you can read any book by John Savage. He's got 3 or 4 books. You can find them on Amazon, the mdrt.org website, the bookstore. You can probably find them on eBay. They're older books, but excellent. John Savage was completely a referral generation agent. He throws out his entire method for you to borrow and adapt. And then Tony Gordon does as well. He did one book. He's a British salesperson that sells life insurance to business owners, and he was completely referral generation only. So I wanted to throw those out too. So before I move to the next one, let me answer some questions here. Let's see. Kyle said, any lead vendors that sell 3 to 6 a month, month-old leads that's only been sold once. I've had lots of success buying from my old IMOs at discounted prices. I would look at ageleadstore.com. That's the only one I know of. There's been some attempts to try to create marketplaces for old leads. There certainly is an opportunity in it, but I think it's just not worth it to the big vendors out there to push it. I don't really know of any, unless you're associated with like an NAA, an Equita, or one of these larger organizations with huge stockpiles of aged leads. It's very hard to find them because like in my organization, I'm never going to sell a single lead I sold to anybody ever because that's part of the deal. They're exclusive to you. They're never resold and they're fresh. Hey, Lisa, how do you get comfortable door knocking? I'm from the city. It's weird for me. Okay, so I'll tell you this. That's a good question. it's still, for me personally, Lisa, I'm still like, especially if I haven't sold in a while, doing door knocking, I'm uncomfortable. Okay. But here's the thing. Think about your mom, your grandmom. And if you ask them, how long have you owned insurance? Tell me about the insurance man. They will go into, especially the older people. I'm talking about grandparents here. I don't know how old you are, but like I'm 34. If I was talking to my grandparents, if they were still alive, it was likely that they had an insurance man. He would come by once a month, pick up the premium. They knew that guy, Mr. Smith. Sometime they'd let him in, have some dinner. He knew the whole family, knew the whole neighborhood. He was a admired person in the community. Because the insurance man, when something bad happened, he was the guy that didn't take money, he gave money. And so I say all this because I think culturally, the older people have an experience of the insurance man as being something more than a used car salesman, as an advisor even. And you'll find that the generation that came after them, they may not have had the insurance man coming door to door, but they remember grandma had the insurance man. And probably grandma said, look, insurance is important. You need to keep it up. You need to keep insurance because you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows when our final day is going to be. So I say all this because you being the insurance lady is a completely different vantage point and experience than the used car salesman or the vacuum cleaner or the person hawking magazines, okay? You're there because you help families. And a lot of the people we sell to are lower income, and they appreciate that kind of service because it's not around anymore. And that's the thing, is there's no more real door-to-door monthly, I'm here to pick up your premium insurance people anymore. So look at it this way. The door-to-door, door knocking your leads, it's a throwback to the old way of doing things. And a lot of older people appreciate that because they don't like dealing with people on the phone. They don't want to press 1 for English and 2 for Spanish. They want to talk to a real person. They don't want to get on the internet because they think it's a big scam. So embrace it. And I'll tell you this, I think ladies have it a lot easier in some respects as far as having more trust with a person. It's the men, on the other hand, that not really. I mean, men do great. Anybody can do great in this business, but you see what I'm saying. I think women door knocking, there's less resistance than there would be with a man. Hope that helps. Do you train people involved in Primerica? Yes, I do. You can go to the website. There's a link at the top about some private consultation. You can check that out. I've also got another thing called the Insurance Agent Inner Circle. It's like working with me, but not. You get access to a lot of my training. I do a weekly live stream like this on different topics, so I can help you out personally and give you access to sales and marketing training as well. Hey, Alfredo, glad to have you back. So one other question somebody asked me, wanted me to talk about my weekly schedule. And so what I'm going to do in this mini segment here is explain how I sold when I was full-time selling final expense and arrange my schedule. And the reason I think this is good, because what you need to do really in this business to be successful is to be consistent and to be focused. And you need to know when it's game time, and you need to be all in and running hard and fast when it's time to be all in and selling insurance. So when I was at the peak of my face-to-face business, which has been about a year and a half, 2 years, I was running appointments starting at 8 in the morning, and I would run for a couple of nights a week. I would stop at 8 o'clock at night, last appointment, and then maybe I'd stop at 3 or 4 a couple other nights of the week. So I'd run 2 long nights and 2 short nights, probably 4 days a week, moved down to 3 eventually. At one point I was at 6 days a week because that's what I had to do to be successful. I was running appointments predominantly on a preset basis. I decided a long time ago that I was most effective if I had a lineup of literally 10 to 15 appointments a day that I could run to, bang, 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 nail them out. If they want to buy, close them. If they don't want to buy for some reason, move on to the next one where I can find somebody who's actually interested. And what this allowed me to do, I literally set appointments 45 minutes apart. Now, this took me probably 2 or 3 years of selling, where I was doing appointments like you should, every 2 minutes or every 2 hours, booking them, then an hour and a half, then an hour and 15, then an hour, then 45 minutes. I would door knock in between leads when I could. And I would buy a ton of leads. At the peak of my business, I was running 70, 80 leads on average. but mostly were preset over the phone by an appointment setter. So all I had to do was, I was basically a human factory to sell insurance, where I would just go out and consume appointments after appointments after appointments. The way I got the appointments down to 45 minutes in length was I kind of used the following strategies. So, hey, thank you, Rikus123. Yes, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't. The way that I would run appointments every 45 minutes is that, first of all, I'd use the cable man approach. So that means when my appointment setter would call, and you can use the strategy too, is I would say, I'll be there at 8 o'clock, but give me up to 9 in case I get stuck in traffic or something happens unexpectedly. So I'll see you at 8, but give me up to 9. And we would do that for every 45-minute segment. I'll be there at 8:45, but give me up to 9:45 to get there in case I get stuck in traffic or something comes up or the client's a little chatty. And that gives you so much wiggle room and comfort level so you don't have to be there right on time. You have this window of time that people are used to with the cable man, which is the whole idea that it came from. Because they'll say, hey, I'll be there sometime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. But with me, it was within 9 or 10, and that's more reasonable. And yeah, did I miss appointments? Yeah, sometimes people mad, but hey, the payoff was I got to do what some people don't do inside of a week, inside of a day. Also, my general strategy, very little chit chat, rapport building lasts a minute to 2 minutes max. I get right down to business. I'm direct with my questions, right to the point. I generally didn't do applications that required a phone interview. But again, this is something that I was comfortable with. I usually don't recommend this to new agents where we call the company up 10, 15 minutes later, get a decision. So I wrote a lot of business with Transamerica, Americo, United Heritage, and other companies that didn't require phone interviews. So, and then I would also take double apps. So if I thought somebody might not fit for Transamerica, I would also take a Security National 2-year wait product or American General or AIG 2-year wait, so that, and then tell them, hey, if this doesn't go through, we're going to fall back to this one. It's a 2-year wait, but if this doesn't go through, it just means nothing else is going to. So that way I didn't have to run back, do a second appointment, and risk never getting back in the door, because the one time you're in the house is treat it like it's the last time you're in the house. I wouldn't do too much scrubbing of the application until Saturday morning. I'd get up at 5 or 5:30, sit down between 6 and 8 o'clock, and I would scrub my applications then. 10, 15 plus applications is what I was accustomed to, and I didn't want to take time doing administrative work when I should be doing selling work. And that's how you get 10 or 15 appointments a week. You can do it on your own. You can set your own appointments like that. It's definitely possible, but it tends to be a burnout factor. It already is with this kind of schedule. But if you outsource it to an appointment setter, someone you can train, you can find them online, you can find call centers. I work with them as well for appointment setters. You can outsource a lot of this work, and for the fee you're going to pay, hey, if it's $500 a week, but in exchange you get the ability to do 15, 20 more appointments, that pays for itself, at least for me, many times over. So the key thing here is consistency and being able to run a schedule that will keep you from burnout, because you can get burned out running something that's outside of your capabilities. For me, I could run it like this consistently for a long time, and realizing you can work a lot, especially as you get better with this process and understand the business that much more. Hey, Steven, what's up? Thank you so much. Glad you could join. You're welcome, Lisa. Arikas, yeah, please like the video. Last point I'll mention here, we're kind of coming down to a close, last 5 minutes or so, is Medicare. I had some people asking me about Medicare. And before I go into Medicare, last couple of things I'll mention here, shameless plugs. Check out the books behind me, Interviews with Top Producing Insurance Agents and The Official Guide to Selling Final Expense Insurance. Both make great Christmas and Hanukkah gifts. Please buy as many as you can for anybody, including yourself and others who want to be successful at selling insurance, especially final expense. My whole program and training is packaged in that nice, convenient book. And then a bunch of interviews I did with top producers as well is a great read as well. You can find them on Amazon for sale as well as ebook format. Of course, as you now know, I recruit agents. Make sure you check out my website to learn more about my recruiting opportunities with final expense, annuity sales, Medicare supplements, and mortgage protection. And then I also do the Insurance Agent Inner Circle program, where you can do a month-to-month membership and have access to all of my training and not have to join my agency to get it. Now, in conclusion here, as we round this down, the last little bit I'll talk about is Medicare. Somebody who just wanted me to give you a basic introduction to selling Medicare, what that entails. Right now, we're in the middle of what's called annual enrollment period. This is essentially the time of year when anybody who has a Medicare Advantage plan is allowed to change out plans for a new one. the government basically stipulates, with a few exceptions, that this is the 8-week period of time in which Medicare recipients can make those changes. This tends to be the busiest time of year if you sell Medicare Advantage. There's also what's called a Medicare supplement, which is a fully underwritten, not fully underwritten, it's an underwritten product as long as it's written outside of the 65-year-old age range. You can sell that all year. And the biggest advantages to these types of products is that they're renewal-driven products. Everybody is, we'll put it this way, everybody's forced to get on Medicare at 65 for the most part. So it's likely that they're going to enhance their Medicare with a supplement to cover what original Medicare doesn't, or to exchange their government Medicare health program for a private healthcare program, Medicare Advantage, to get some advantages, no pun intended, at least it seemingly seems that way, to improve their Medicare experience. The advantages of this business, it's doubling. Medicare recipients are doubling in size for the next 20, 25 years. I think it's going to go up to like 50 or 60 million by 2040. 10,000 baby boomers hit 65 years old a day for the next 10, 15 years. And it is a huge source of business, and it's a renewal-driven business. If you can write 1,000 pieces of business, you're likely going to make $250,000 residually. Yeah, you got to service the book of business and do some things, but that's what you'll make before you get out of bed without writing a single new piece of business. So there's a huge advantage of the business. The drawback is it's renewal-driven. So first, your commissions are lower. The cost of doing business, I should say the cost of doing business is about the same as any other business, but it takes more sales to overcome the cost and to be net profitable. So it's a slower grind. You know, it's going to take you 2 or 3 years to where you're making a considerable income. And many people can't make it that long. And that's why they go directions like final expense. The way I teach Medicare, and a way I think is a great way to get involved in this business, is to target what's called the Turning 67 marketplace. What this is specifically using Medicare supplements to target people who have had Medicare supplements for a couple of years and experienced price increases. In a nutshell, Medicare supplements are all the same except for the price, as long as the plan is identical. So the sale is hey, tired of your price increases? Let me show you the same exact thing you have while saving you $500 or $600 a year in premiums. People on a fixed income are thrilled with that opportunity. And so there's a great market for that because just like Medicare supplements, most agents fail out. They don't stay in it. And so if you're going back to call on these people and there's an opportunity to save money and have the same benefits, many of them will take it up. And through that process, as you prospect for it, you can find sales for final expense, indemnity products, even annuities. So it's a really good market to target. It's not as saturated as the Turning 65 market, because if you're getting somebody who's brand new to Medicare, there's no underwriting. So a lot of agents are attracted to it because it's easier from an underwriting standpoint, because there's literally none. But there's so much saturation, and plus people who are new to some new concept are less confident in making a decision. So you have the difference between Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplements that they're going to consider. And in my opinion, Medicare Advantage is a tough market. You've got to be compliance-oriented. You've got to take exams before you can represent the product. You got to take exams for each particular type of company you represent, and you got to renew it every year. So it's a hassle for a lot of people who are involved in that business will tell you. Whereas if you just have a health insurance license, in most states you can sell a Medicare supplement, so the barrier to entry is less. And I think the quality of the client tends to be better. So I like teaching that method because it's easier to start with. There's a lot of prospects that fit the bill, and there's less competition. And I think there's a more opportunity for other products as well. So it tends to be my personal opinion. Now, CJ Westfall here could tell you he is a Medicare writing machine and can tell you that the Medicare business is good. And CJ, do you sell much in the way of the Turning 67 market? Or are you predominantly in the new to Medicare market? Kind of interested to hear what you say about that. While we wait on that, if CJ's still here, he has loads of experience. Sin McGuire says, book is great. Thanks. Thank you very much. I'm glad you bought it. Only over 70. So are you working predominantly what we're talking about? People who are turning 67 for the most part. Is that the idea where you replace their overpriced coverage with a better policy, the same policy, but a better price? Cincinnati, Ohio, at the rate, how much AP was you doing? At probably about $25,000 a month. I'd have months where I did more than that, some months less than that. but about 7.5 a month, 7.5 a week is about what I'd expect. Somewhere about 12, 13, 14 policies. Yeah, doing a week. That's what you said. Yeah. So, yeah, CJ Westfall. CJ's been involved in the business a long time. I don't know if you got a Medicare channel. I know his dad does. You may want to check that out, too. It's a good resource for anything Medicare training. MedicareAgentTraining.com, by the way. But great business to be in if you are in it for the long haul and you can get through the first couple of years. There's nothing like passive income, and the Medicare business can absolutely do it. So last call for questions. If you got any questions, now's the time to list them. Again, thank you so much for watching the live stream today. I hope you guys learned something. Had a lot of great questions as always. I love doing these live streams. Lots of interaction. Good questions asked across the board. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my website, daviddufour.com. Peruse it, see what's up. If there's anything that interests you, check it out. If I can do anything for you, you can click the contact box, send me a message. I personally review all the emails that come through. So I'm happy to help anybody that has any questions or concerns. So I don't see any questions. My voice is going. I've been on the phone all day with new agents too. So I'm going to go take a break and suck some water down. David Dufour here. Oh, look at my cup here. This is how you know you've got kids. Hello, kitty. Nice water. All right, guys. See you later. Take care.